Hi there. In this episode, the best looking keyboards. What? Yeah, this may be the strangest episode I've done so far. Wait for the Halloween episode though. And let me explain about this episode. When I started taking guitar lessons in 2004, I needed to buy some guitars. I began looking at reviews on music store websites, scouring the internet and YouTube. Many of the reviews had the same formula. 80 to 90% of the review was devoted to how the guitar looked. That was new to me because I'm used to buying keyboards and looking at specs about ports and buttons and memory. It would go something like this. Dude, it has a beautiful pillow top. It's so deep and memorizing. The glow off of the finish is effervescent. Totally. I was like, what is happening? I thought this was a gear review. Where are the specs? How does it sound? I'm not making fun of guitar players. I play guitar and I understand. But it took me this buying opportunity to figure that out. Most guitars are an amalgamation of wood and metal, maybe some plastic. There are some classic designs like the Strat, Les Paul, Flying V, Hollow Body, Dobro, Pedal Steel, Acoustics, and others. However, for the most part, they look pretty similar. A body, a neck, some hardware, and a set of strings. I guess there's not too much to talk about, so people spend a lot of time on the looks. At first, to me, these reviews sounded like they were coming from wine connoisseurs. Cheeky, but not pretentious. Good legs, but not stout, with a fruity top note. Today, I've created a top 11 list of some of what I would consider the best looking keyboards. It's a list, not the list. There are many keyboards that I wanted to put on this list, but this is just a top 11 list. If you have some favorite good looking keyboards, you can tell me and others about them in the comments. I suppose the keyboard version of a beautiful looking guitar is the concept of industrial design. To us as keyboard players, it's very important, even though we don't consciously think about industrial design. I believe most of us want a functional device, but we want it to look good too. Manufacturers work hard to give us both of these qualities, but they vary in their success. Here's the list. At number 11, the ASM Hydrasynth. First of all, I haven't played one, but that doesn't mean I can't look at its aesthetics and have an opinion. Plus, whenever my best friend Brian calls me, it's Hydrasynth this, Hydrasynth that, I feel like I own one. The Hydrasynth has a minimalistic layout for its complexity. It has soft knobs and buttons, meaning knobs and buttons that align functionally with the display. The panel is mostly gray with white text. There are a few text items in light orange, both on the panel and some of the buttons, reducing the contrast and thus readability. The main section labeling is also in the light orange color on a black background. It's fairly easy to read, but white text would have been better. I believe that some manufacturers feel the need to include at least a little bit of color on the front panel so it doesn't look sterile, but I'm always pro function over form. Ultimately, it's a good-looking keyboard. At number 10, the Synclavier. Obviously, the Synclavier is more than just a keyboard, and there are a few different models. There is also often a rack or two of connected hardware. Still, I'm talking about what you see directly in front of you as far as the keyboard. The Synclavier keyboard is quite simple and eloquent. One large metallic rotary knob and a 4 or 16-digit LED with 128 or 160 illuminating buttons. The panel with the controls is angled towards you. Of course, many keyboards have a wedge shape to them that offers a little bit of tilt towards the player, but the Synclavier really makes great use of it. At number 9, Dave Smith Polyevolver. This 61-note keyboard has 78 knobs and 59 buttons. That is a lot of controls to put on a 5-octave synth, yet they did it in a way that doesn't look cramped or ugly. It includes white text on dark and light blue backgrounds. All the knobs are black in color. 2 knobs have orange lines to point to the values. The other 76 knobs have raised plastic lines, which works fine for direct viewing in a lot of light, but it would be hard to see in a dimly lit studio or on stage. Number 8, Alesis Andromeda. Sometimes I'm not sure if I love or hate the panel graphics and layout on the Andromeda. There are some weird shapes and logical visual connectivity happening on the front panel that not everyone is going to like. Today, I'm feeling like I like it, so we're going to say positive today. Similar to the Poly Evolver, the Andromeda has more buttons and knobs than the Millennium Falcon. The front panel may look busy, but it doesn't look cluttered, and they still manage to include the largest ribbon controller since the Yamaha CS80. Text is either black or white on gray and dark blue backgrounds. It works, but I would have preferred white text on a black background. At number 7, the Yamaha CS80. Yet another synthesizer with a ton of controls, but it still looks clean thanks to a highly angled panel and a great design. My one complaint is the tone selector area with white, green, yellow, and red buttons. I would have made them black or gray with white text. The colorful buttons really date the synth and make it look more like an organ from grandma's living room. Number 6. The Roland Jupiter 6. The Jupiter 6 has an amazingly clean line to it. It's a near perfect layout that is uncluttered and easy to read. The main panel is a solid dark gray color. The buttons, knobs, and sliders are mostly gray with a few white and a few mauve. If you contrast that with the Jupiter 8, the Jupiter 8 has black knobs with orange lines, black sliders with white lines. Some switches are metallic, others are red, green, yellow, white, orange, light blue, and dark blue. It may sound better than a Jupiter 6, but it looks a little bit like a Christmas tree. At number 5, the Waldorf Q. There are a couple of Waldorf Q keyboards. I'm not referring to the yellow one or the black one with the yellow trim, even though the black one with the yellow trim isn't bad. The yellow one, on the other hand, not a fan. I'm referring to the standard blue edition and the black Phoenix edition with the dark burgundy highlights. Both of these keyboards have a very modern look, even though they're pushing 25 years old. My only complaint is the display. White text on a black background would have been better for both, or the burgundy unit could have a white background with burgundy text. Like some of the synths on this list, it has a ton of knobs and switches, yet it doesn't look cluttered. Number 4. This is an old one, the Korg Mono Poly. It's mostly blue, gray, white, and black, and I love the deep blue color that they used. They used a similar design on other keyboards like the Poly 6, and the Poly 6 is also a super well designed keyboard. There's one orange button. All the knobs, buttons, and switches are aligned. It's a work of art. It could have been even higher, but I took off a few points. I like the plain white Korg logo, but I think it should have been bigger, or at least as big as the Mono Poly text. Also, I don't care for the slash between mono and poly, and I don't like that it's italicized. Am I starting to sound like a wine connoisseur? I hope not. At number 3 is the Octave Plateau The Cat, or just the Octave The Cat. If you've watched the entire video up until this point, you may have an idea of what I like as far as looks, and I believe it boils down to this: a functional, easy-to-use layout, whether there are 160 knobs and switches or just 16. Symmetry, high contrast graphics, and limited distractions. The Octave Cat is a very simple analog synth, and it has a very pleasing appearance to me. It has a solid black background with white text. There are a lot of controls for a 3-octave keyboard, but they're arranged logically and the front panel doesn't look cluttered. In the 70s, several manufacturers used white text on black backgrounds, and they look great. It is a simple and effective design. It was probably also cheaper to do. I have a few devices where the text is light blue, orange, green, or another color. These devices don't look as good to me, and they're not as easy to read and use. Number 2, the Chord Kronos X88. It's mostly black and white. Sure, there's a big color screen. All but one control is black or white with white accents, and all the LEDs are white. The only exception is the vector joystick, which is metallic. The fascia is black with white lettering. It's incredibly simple, but it offers high contrast and readability, and I love it. I suppose I'm being pragmatic, but there is also a beauty to this pragmatism, like black and white photography. The pitch/mod joystick area lights up with white LEDs. Before I give you the number 1, I want to say that I believe there are also scary keyboards and keyboards that are not so good looking. In another episode, I told you what I thought was the scariest keyboard module ever made. Perhaps I'll do a scary keyboard episode, maybe around about Halloween. Anyway, at number 1, the grand piano, but a grand piano that is black. With black and white keys and an all-black body, it's the tuxedo of colors. I've never cared for white pianos or pianos that are natural wood color, though I've seen a few natural wood color grands that were okay. White grands, on the other hand, I'm just simply not a fan of them. That's about it for this episode. Remember to feel free to tell me and everyone else in the comments about keyboards that you would put on a list like this. You can tell me about their glowing plastic finishes and their sparkling buttons. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Take care, and I'll be back in another episode soon.